This is Ben Lamort. Welcome back to the 20 something Toolkit. In the last two episodes, we looked at something really fundamental about how change can actually happen, right? We looked at Levine's force field, where we saw that motivation, that's not really your problem. What's keeping you stuck are these restraining forces, these invisible barriers that are trying to keep you in place. Look, I'm not paranoid, but this is what happens, right? And one of the most common things you're going to happen, well, when you're in your 20s, one of the big restraining forces, those invisible forces that seem to be keeping you where you are, it's going to be, I don't know anyone. I mean, who works in this field that I'm interested in, or that company that I want to apply for a job for, or who do I know that's even on the path that I'm curious about going down? And so you just stay where you are. It's not because you don't have any skills or that you don't have any motivation. It's just that somehow you feel blocked off. And then in the flow episode, we started looking at what happens after you begin moving, right? Once you get started, how do you overcome that initial resistance, right? That static friction we talked about. Then the momentum builds. You begin to engage, you grow, you move. Remember, you turn into a snowball that has exponential growth. Everything's great, right? But here's the key question. Once you start moving and you're turning into that giant snowball, right? How does the world respond to the action that you take? Do they say, wow, that's a weird snowball over there? Do they even notice the snowball? The question is, where do your opportunities actually come from? Most opportunities, they're not going to just show up randomly. I mean, that could happen, but I don't think it's worth waiting around for lucky things to maybe happen someday. Most opportunities are going to emerge through, wait for it, your relationships with people. So for some of you, that might be really bad news because you're like, no, I don't want to work with people. I'm just getting comfortable with my relationship with ChatGPT. I don't want to, badmouth ChatGPT because, AI might be taking over the world and I don't want AI robots to come and kill me after this episode. But this leads us to one of the most important insights from the book, The Defining Decade by Meg Jay. Remember the one I said, it's like a must read? And that is weak ties. If I had to summarize the book into its three major takeaways, it would be number one, build identity capital. Number two, activate your weak ties. And number three, stop waiting around. Your 20s are not a place to just chill out and wait for things to happen. Get proactive and make things happen. And today I want to focus on weak ties, which is the second of the big three. We already covered identity capital earlier in a bonus episode. So strong ties versus weak ties. Strong ties are the ones that you have where you're really close to people, right? Think of your very close friends, obviously your family, we hope, if you get along with your family, right? The people that you know well, that you've known for years. They're going to provide support. They make you feel a sense of belonging. They're where you go on the holidays, right? You have a sense of trust. You can tell them anything, I hope, right? But strong ties are usually in the same world that you are living in, right? They know the things you know. They know who you know. They're going to reinforce the things that are in your current circle, but they're rarely going to expand or enlarge your circle. Weak ties are different. The concept comes from the sociologist Mark Granovetter, who discovered something really surprising, that most people didn't really find jobs through their close friends. They found jobs through weak ties, the people that they only sort of knew, right? A professor, maybe a former classmate, a friend of a friend, somebody you used to work with, someone you met once at that running club event that you went to. Shout out to anybody that's going out to a running club. Those are amazing. I guess fine print, you kind of have to know how to run, so maybe I won't do that. But weak ties live in a different network because weak ties are going to bring you new information. They're going to bring you new connections. They're going to bring you new opportunities. I mean, they're going to bring you lots of new things, which is one of the reasons why I love these abroad programs, because you're in a new place, you're meeting all these new people. Okay. I'm not saying you need to go abroad in order to get weak ties, but hey, that would be one possibility. The thing is, most people know that they should reach out to these people out there, this friend of a friend or something like that, but then they don't do it because they think, oh, I don't want to bother them, or why would they want to help me? I don't even really know them, so it's kind of strange for me to call them out of the blue. But here's the thing that's important. In general, people are actually good. I don't think I'm the only one that thinks this. People do generally want to help other people. we sort of have each other's back for the most part. The default is people do want to help you. So just keep that in mind. I mean, most people remember what it was like when they were early in their career in their 20s. Most people respond very positively when someone reaches out if they're sincere and they're actually initiating something. And again, as long as it's based on their values, right? You're not doing this because Ben told you to or your parents told you to or whatever. You're doing it because it's coming from you. This is something that you want to do. The barrier isn't really the rejection. The barrier is not asking in the first place. So here's the personal story where one conversation changed everything for me. It's a personal example of when I was a student. I was an engineering student at UC Davis, and I really wanted an internship at a national laboratory, which would be paid by the National Science Foundation. It sort of checked all my boxes. I'm not going to just fill the application out and just hope that somehow it works out. So what did I do? I walked into the dean's office and I said, "Excuse me, could I get a meeting with the dean of engineering and have a personal meeting?" Well, the dean was the person that was the dean's secretary said, "I'm sorry, the dean's not available." But about a week later, basically gave me a referral to the assistant dean. And I didn't even know who the assistant dean was. I had a little bit of a relationship with the dean because I think he was one of the professors for my class and I sort of knew him, but maybe he wouldn't have remembered me. But it was still a pretty, not a tight connection, I guess I got to say, but it was a pretty, but that itself was a weak connection. But the assistant dean, I didn't even know who in the world I didn't even know we had an assistant dean, to be honest. But the assistant dean, his name was Billy Sanders, he actually met with me. And I was surprised. I sat down in his office. He looked me in the eyes. He saw that I was taking initiative. And after about 5 minutes, literally it was 5 minutes of talking about what I was looking for, he just picked up the phone and he called one of his contacts at Sandia National Labs, which was only an hour drive from Davis. And that single connection that he made changed everything. I got moved right to the top of the list for consideration of a National Science Foundation funded paid summer internship, which literally had like a 1% acceptance rate. And it paid quite a bit of money. So this was like going to check all my boxes. I couldn't believe it. See, the thing is, this opportunity, which I ended up doing, it didn't come from submitting forms or doing research on the web. It came from activating a weak tie. I didn't know it at the time, but I was taking initiative and leveraging my weak ties. Now, as far as ties go, when I was in college, most of the ties I wore, if I were going out to a party, people would say they were weak. So I guess I did have weak ties when I was in college, but I didn't really have weak ties in the sense that I'm trying to talk about in this podcast episode. Okay, sorry, that was probably needing to be edited out. Here is the practical tool from today. I want you to activate your weak ties, right? This means reaching outward, meeting people, having conversations, learning, because opportunities are going to come through people, right? Not just filling out applications. So now it's your turn. This is a simple exercise to apply weak ties in your own life. And no, you don't have to go around and go to Ross Dress for Less and go do a bunch of informational interviews with really bad ties that are weak. You don't want to come across like weak with okay, I'm taking this way too far. What I want you to do, step one, is name 2 of your strong ties. So think of the people that you already trust, right? This could be a close friend. This could be a professor that you're really connected with. This could be a colleague at work. It could be a mentor, somebody in your family, right? You get the idea. What I want you to do is ask each of them for one weak tie. So, and I only want you to pick like 2 people, right? So you're going to go to 2 people. This is super baby steps, right? And just say, "Hey, I'm exploring an area that I'm interested in and I'm looking to learn more. Do you know anyone that I could talk to, even just for 5 or 10 minutes, or just like meet for coffee, that could help me to understand that field better?" Now, probably that person that you talk to is going to be like, "Well, yeah, I mean, I know somebody that is a person that works in robotics. I think they work in that." Or maybe, "Oh yeah, I know somebody that used to work in the auto industry." Or, "Hey, oh, business? Oh, I've got a guy that started like 3 businesses. He's a super cool guy. You got to meet him." And otherwise, you'll never meet these people. But now you're going to have 2 weak ties because your 2 strong ties are each going to give you 1 weak tie. What I want you to do then, step 3, right? And for some of you, this might be hard, but I want you to reach out and schedule that conversation. Meet the person for coffee or lunch. If possible, this is not necessarily go get a beer, right? Because we don't know this person. We don't want to get into the whole alcohol thing. This is just an information thing. Public place, kind of a thing. And if not available to meet in person, fine. Just do a phone call or like a Zoom meeting. People are totally up for that. Step 4 is to really prepare to listen. Remember, you're not asking them for a job. It's just an informational conversation, if you will. It's a get to know you. And I want you to go in with curiosity to learn about what this person did. What was their path? What are their tips that they would give you? What have they learned? Kind of what are their caveats about their field? Because you can tell them, look, I'm really thinking about going into your field because I value this type of stuff. What are your thoughts on it? And then step 5, be sure to be really clear why you're reaching out. Make sure they understood that you're guided by your values. You really want to learn, grow, and explore, and that's why you want to be connected. And when you have a conversation with somebody that's really coming from your genuine interest and values, people are going to pick up on that. And it's going to lead to meaningful connections. And sometimes they might even introduce you to somebody else based on the energy that you're bringing in. So let them do most of the talking, be authentic, lead with your values, and of course, say thanks at the end. Maybe send them a follow-up note. I know it sounds kind of old school, but if you can send them an email just saying thanks so much for the time, and maybe like have 1 or 2 things for next steps, like I'm going to be doing this, it would be great if you could introduce me to that person or whatever, because one weak tie often leads to another and another and another, and those weak ties just lead to more and more opportunities. Because opportunities are going to begin with that simple step, just reaching out, starting the conversation. And because when you meet people, doors are going to open. New ideas will appear, possibilities will emerge. But here's the thing. Opportunity does not come simply from meeting people. It's going to come from what you learn and how those conversations go. Recall we talked about expositors earlier in the series, where learning by explaining, actively engaging with ideas rather than just simply just listening to whatever you're being told about them, that can be a very powerful step toward becoming a better learner and learning difficult concepts. But in the next episode, I want to go even deeper. It's going to be something even more fundamental. A core skill that I learned at Stanford Center for Teaching and Learning, precision questioning. Because this is how you ask questions when you're engaged with another person rather than just a difficult concept. And the quality of what you learn and how you connect with other people is going to depend on the quality of the questions that you ask. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.